Hello, and welcome to the Simply Business Interview Podcast, a podcast created by business owners for business owners. I am your host, John Jennings. And I believe that most business owners are working way too hard for much too little. And one of our issues is that we overcomplexify things. I believe the answers are almost always within us or within our reach. I like to say that I'm a simple man with simple ideas. So welcome to Simply Business. And so today I am joined by Denise O'Donnell, who's the founder and chief vision officer of Scope. So Denise, thank you so much for joining me today. Why don't you just kick us off by just sharing us a little bit about your background, who you are, what you do, how you've come about doing that.
Thanks for having me, John. Yeah, so I'm Denise, the Chief Vision Officer at Scope, and mainly we are a fractional C-suite company that helps you sort of fill the gap or get to the next stage before you need to hire a full-time executive on your team without the cost of that high six-figure salary or putting someone to work and sort of wasting that skill set when you don't have a full 40-hour work week for them.
Okay, excellent. So what inspired you to start this business? What was that initial spark to send you on this kind of entrepreneurial journey?
Sure. So I sat in the CFO, or the Chief Financial Officer and Chief Operating Officer seat, and for the latter chunk of my career, in the C-suite. And I think where the inspiration comes from is this deep-seated belief that traditional business models often stifle our innovation and limit potential because we're so afraid of seeing what's possible that we do what's always been done. And so that initial spark for me came from recognizing the need to disrupt that status quo. And I would find that I was more of a disruptor in the roles that are supposed to maybe be the ones that don't have that component to them, where I thought there's no need for this to be augmented into one segment of business. It's okay to have innovation and bold thinking around all pillars, not just one or two, and actually encourage it and celebrate that to see where we can really go in business.
Excellent. And so I'm going to address the elephant in the room because you're here in Louisville with me, but obviously from your accent, you're not. So tell us a little about your personal journey. Obviously you're not from here, but that's all cool. Tell us a little bit about that. How did you come about ending in Louisville, Kentucky?
Sure. So I started as a college soccer player. I played at the University of North Alabama and started my journey to the States from there. I'd never been to the United States. My knowledge was very limited, and but I did come out to college just a couple years early because I had finished high school in Scotland and thought, here's an opportunity for me to continue in sports while also continuing in education, because I knew long term I was not going to be an athlete forever. There's only less than 1% of the lucky population that have that dream become a reality, and I figured I probably wasn't one of those. And so decided to be in Scotland. You don't really have that opportunity to be able to use your athletic and your academic skill sets in one facet of life. And so America was a place that offered that. And here we are. I started at North Alabama. I got my master's degree in accounting. How boring. But I did do that as well while coaching soccer, and then continued here to wrap up grad school and ended up just fell in love with the bluegrass and never really left the Ohio Valley.
Awesome. I just had to ask. I love hearing people's personal journey and how it goes along with your entrepreneurial journey. So tell us about, so you started, when did you start the business, and what was like the biggest surprise when you went out on your own? What's been the biggest surprise those early years?
Sure. So I started Scope in July of 2021, but was just segueing out of I'd started it with the premise of thinking this would maybe be 10 years down the road, build the sort of business clientele slow model, right? I was planning to slow walk it while working in the industry. And I really, again, sort of going back to the spark of what started it, struggled to have a role within finance that was also allowed to disrupt. And in order to do that, I wanted to move out of there. So started in 2021, with a roster of clients, but didn't expect to do it full time for a longer period of time, and ended up opting to work for myself after being about a year and a little bit in business. Quit my job, or quit the C-suite last February. And, so sort of we're coming into my 1 year anniversary of 100% being out of that 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And but sort of going into year 2.5, year 3 in business overall for myself.
Yeah. So I know a lot of people in this kind of space where I'm in a similar space as far as self-employed, and I had that dream too, that I was going to kind of keep my day job, and I was going to build this business, and that lasted about 2 weeks. It didn't last long at all. Um, how did you balance that? I mean, and obviously, I guess your employer was supportive of you doing that. So, uh,
Yeah,
that's a dream of a lot of people. So I'm just curious.
I think the balance of it was always off kilter, which was what really then pushed me to just step out and do it. I don't do well not giving 100% to something. And when my foot was in sort of 50-50, I wasn't feeling comfortable with my professional performance or the performance in my business. I could feel that. And not that I mean that anyone else could tell that, I don't think. But I could feel it, where
Right.
you're constantly not. And not that I don't believe you can be, multifaceted and have a lot of different skill sets. I just would like to be the master of that in one versus multiple, and give
Yeah.
my intentionality to it. And so when I could start really feeling myself becoming more and more torn of, I'm not, the things over here are much more exciting for me. The things over here are drawing me to it. Then I knew it was at that time that I didn't want to do anyone a disservice in the professional role I was holding either, because I also understand that money is a vulnerable space for people to be. And so that does take a sort of 1,000% focus all the time, and wanted to make sure that I wasn't overburdening anyone nor myself in that. And to maybe just circle back to a question you asked me as I first got into this, I think the biggest surprise was realizing how liberating it was to step out of the 9 to 5. I
Yeah.
never thought I would be able to have the same amount of fulfillment, or I wasn't really sure if it would. And stupidly, I will say that very, very candidly, stupidly, I was equating something that I was doing to some kind of self-worth. And that was like a rip up the rule book moment for me of
Yeah.
absolutely not. My net worth has nothing to do with my self-worth. And I think stepping out of the 9 to 5 was liberating, because it helped me see that
Yeah.
we can challenge conventional wisdom and be instrumental in exceeding expectations in our own lives if we start driving that success.
Yeah. Awesome. And I hope people listening heard what you were saying there, because I coach coaches some, I coach some of our new coaches. And one of the things that I hear a lot is, oh yeah, I kind of need to hang on to my day job to, for whatever reason, for insurance, for a salary or whatever. And I find that those that try to, whatever they're trying to be, a coach or consultant or whatever, uh, if they can't go all in, they never can get all in. At some point, you have to do that. And I was actually blessed, I guess, that um, when my when I when my former entrepreneur that I was working with, when he found out what my longer term plans were, he decided we weren't a good fit. Uh, and so, we parted ways amicably, but we parted ways. And man, I'm glad now. At the time I was not happy. I was kind of ticked off, to be
Yep.
honest.
Yep.
But it like you said, it was freeing. It's like, okay, well, um, you know, it's like when you jump out of the airplane, you got to pull the ripcord. There's there's only one direction you're going, and so
Yeah.
you have to make that decision. And it's like, I've committed now, I'm going, and
And
that's
I
that.
think I think that's the key word, isn't it? It's the commitment. And when you're committing in two places, one of them is always going to be on the back burner. And
Yeah,
so I think it came down to, for me, defining what I actually want.
yeah,
And my want takes away from nobody else's need. And
yeah,
entrepreneurs, I think, struggle with that a lot. because I want something doesn't mean someone else goes without. It means that I'm driving that part of the success that I want to see in my own realm of the world. And that was something I think that just changed when you can really figure out what you want and then go and commit to it. You're going to get there much faster, and it takes away the need to hold on to sort of those dangling shiny objects that maybe that 9 to 5 does provide, that are the fears to stepping into your own work or doing your own thing for a minute. Is, you know, the salary will always be there, but it will always be the thing that holds you back from taking the final step into being on your own.
Yeah, awesome. So has your business had to evolve since you've gone out on your own? Have you had to kind of make some pivots and changes and stuff? Share some about that.
100%. We have been going through this. So in the first 10 months where I quit my business, we're very data and results focused. I kind of go against the grain a little bit, especially for what we would maybe know as a traditional accountant. I do not time track. I do not hold people to those kind of maybe more traditional structures, but instead we focus on the result and how we get there, and if that is what is occurring, because really as a CEO, that's actually what matters to me, how you spend your time. And if you decide to go down a rabbit hole for 10 hours, my expectation is still that this result gets met. So we don't really look at it from maybe a time tracking perspective. We have these data points that drive results. And so for 10 months, I studied every result that we had through our KPIs, through our metrics, and I spent a lot of time in there. And what that allowed me to see is that when we look at the year-end results, and while, you know, super grateful for the year that we had, I look at maybe a 92 to 97-ish% success rate on what we were measuring. The other thing that the data really showed me was that it's not a sustainable model forever. And so that means, to me, when I started to really dig into what that would mean, we're going to actually dismantle and rebrand and go in at a different avenue on how we engage people, because it's the main, while we are marketing in one way and speaking this one language, here's the work that we actually end up doing for people. And so even though all of our results show that green check mark, it also shows us this huge gaping hole that we have in the long-term planning. And so short-term and long-term are different. I look at the short-term and I've got, say, 3,002% growth rate. But I look at the long-term and say, is it repeatable, scalable, and what I want out of it? And so even though after, I would say, a good, successful year, I take it as, yes, there was a lot of success and a lot of learning and a lot of great things that came out of this, but here's what we actually learned. Here's the lesson here, and here's what we can dismantle and rebuild into something that is scalable for us, and something that still meets these goals and targets and hits them, but then also gives us that more that more repeatable and scalable function going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something we share in common, figuring out how do I scale this business in a way other than just multiplying my time, which is a finite resource, not infinite resource. And so we run into those limitations. So what's going to be the key for you in, say, the next year to evolve that into this more infinite business?
I think for us, it's more about getting into the right match. We've become, over the past 10 months, we've been audience obsessed, right? I'm obsessed with the niche that we serve. I don't really care what we do. It's more about what is it that they need, so that we can then use our solutions to make sure it matches. And I think the focus over the next little bit is going to be on that, and getting the right match, getting into the right spaces for those that we want to serve, and know that we can really deliver value over and over and over again, to learn more about what it is we do and how it really will take them. It's more of we don't think about this component of our business until we are at the end and falling off the cliff of, like, why is this not working? And to sort of back up your point about time being a finite resource, is that we don't want you to do double the work for double the money, because you've not saved anything there nor gained anything. You've gained nothing. You might have gained double the revenue, but you've got double the expenses, or you're doubling your time input. And
Right.
so when we start to look at business performance analysis and create the dashboard of the metrics that are and are not working, we can begin to say, okay, this is working, let's focus. This is working slightly, but let's fix it to work well. And this is costing us or hemorrhaging or really serving us no purpose, let's forget it. And working through that. So I think it's more of the education on how can something operational really translate into true cash. That is where our audience sort of misses the mark on the investment and how this is transformative.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting a business owner to abandon something that is not making them money or is losing money is so difficult because they're so attached to it. You know, we talked earlier about my book, or did we talk about? No, that was another conversation. Sorry. With my book that is called "Your Baby Is Ugly." It's about, you know, business owners having to face the hard truth that sometimes something they're doing is broken, and
Yeah.
and facing that is difficult, rather difficult. And so, what have you kind of, I don't want you to give away all your secrets, but have you, what to you, what's the magic answer to get a CEO or a business leader, whoever you're working with, to move away from something that's just not working?
I think we do it from a dual lens, you know, almost being curious about why they're stuck in that mode by asking the right questions, right? Not informing those questions that doesn't have an attacking tone. I think is key for us. Is it really doesn't matter to me what you do or why you're doing it. What matters to me is that you know what you want, because when you know that, I can deliver it, or I can help you take the steps to get there. And then the other side that we come at it from is really using the data and the metrics to say, after that, if you keep doing this particular action over and over and over again, where's the life cycle that you're out this game? And do you want to be out the game?
Yeah.
And we see that comes up for us a lot on cost per acquisition of clients. That
Mhm.
we were speaking to a client yesterday who had just signed a new contract, you know, and a lot of times they're like, oh, I was so busy, I forgot to tell you, I signed this new contract for $7,000 a month to put in this website acquisition system. And so I really approached it from a question perspective of asking, when you were signing that contract, did you look at the data to see what you convert on your website currently? No. Well, I knew the answer, and it was $1,100 a month. So now they have a $7,000 outlay for a $1,000 return. And to me, that's a $6,000 hemorrhage a month, because you're the core issue. What we were able to help this client see was that the core issue is messaging.
Yeah.
The reason people aren't buying from you because you don't have a core offer. You don't have a niche. You're targeting everybody, so nobody is listening. There's so many more steps to take before signing this huge bloated contract of a vehicle, right? We describe this to CEOs of, if I don't exercise now, buying an expensive Peloton will not make me exercise. It will only make me waste money on the Peloton. The problem is me not having a Peloton is not the barrier that doesn't make me exercise. There's something else there. Buying the Peloton is not going to motivate me to exercise. Maybe for the first month, because I'm mad that I spent $1,000 on it or whatever.
And when the new wears off, you're done.
It's done, right? I've got to change the underlying habit or the core component of it. And so from that, we see this all the time. And it's more about getting curious to ask the questions to help them see it on their own, versus us coming in and being like, why the heck did you sign that contract? Do you know you're losing $6,000 a month? Yeah. Nobody's going to be respected.
I had a client once that basically for every client for one particular product service they had, for every new client they took, they lost more money. And I said, you know what, if you want to be more profitable, let's get rid of just get rid of this. Well, that wasn't an option. Okay, then let's take a look at this whole business model and let's reimagine it, because the way it's working now, you're just spinning into oblivion, and it's amazing. People go, well, if I just work harder at it. No, double your clients, double your loss. That's just, not gonna work. Well, one last question. I always ask this for my entrepreneurial leaders I bring on the program. What advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur, someone in that either maybe they haven't started yet or they're just getting off the ground, what piece of advice would you give to someone starting this journey?
You've got to embrace the discomfort and uncertainty that it comes along with. You're not going to walk out there on your first week and close these grandiose deals the way TikTok or Instagram or whomever that guru is telling you. It does take real work. It takes a minute to build. And I would also say, don't be afraid to look at what you're doing and completely dismantle it to become better. It's okay for the feedback and criticism to be something that you hold and own, but it's not personal. And I think a lot of times we encounter people that are like, well, my team are telling me that this isn't working. Well, they're telling you that because they want to see you succeed.
Yeah.
It's not a criticism of you as a human. It's we're seeing these gaps. How can we we're bringing them forward to inform you so that you can make decisions in a way that prevents them. Or if you're all right with that gap, you can understand why your team can't reach the expectation that you're setting or whatever that might be. From a finance perspective, always budget on your worst day. Do not take in your best day and think that's what I'm going to spend money on. Don't push the boundary with fake money.
I've seen that for sure. Yeah.
So I think that's got to be one of the most key elements that we see often. Make sure that if you're transitioning from a job to a 9 to 5 to your own business, you do not need those traditional structures of what you're used to. If you have no clients and no staff, please don't rent an office first. Let's work on your messaging and who you're going to target. We don't need you to be sitting in an office having, an automatic $1,000 of overhead and you've not even thought about who you're going to serve yet. And so trying to dismantle that employee to CEO shift is something that if someone can take that with them, you've got to rip up what you know and throw it in the trash and really then go and attack it from a whole other perspective. Learn, grow your circle, always be working with people that if your coach doesn't have a coach, they're not a coach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I met with my coach this morning. So I agree with you 100% on that. So, well, Denise, this has been great. Enjoyed getting to know you better, known you from being around town, but this is our first real conversation. I appreciate that. And hopefully we'll connect some more. But I hope the listeners have gotten some great value here. I know you brought some great pearls of wisdom, and I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. You as well. I appreciate you. I appreciate the invite to be on the show.
Absolutely.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you liked it, please share or like it on whatever platform you use. You can find me on social media. On most platforms, I'm John K. Jennings. My first book is also available. Your Baby is Ugly tells you about 10 truths that business owners need to hear, but often won't, and how to overcome them. You can find it on Amazon. Just search for Your Baby is Ugly. And be watching for our next episode where I'll interview another business owner who will share their stories and insights into what it's like to create a great business.